Where did Lynn go? So good morning again. Hello, hello. I think we should get started. I'll just leave it there. All right, so for those who don't know me, I'm Mike McMullen. I'm president of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank all you brave souls for coming out in this massive blizzard to get here. But this is a pretty nice showing that we have here, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time, except I just want to take a couple seconds and introduce our first MC. We're going to have two MCs. Lynn's going to basically MC the intro part, and then Mr. Gavin's going to do the part with our delegates. But I'd like you to please do give a round of applause to Ms. Lynn Wheeler, who's been chair of our board at the Chamber all year. It's one of her last meetings. And then we'll be handing the gavel over to Ms. Suzette Kovalt in the back. Suzette, she's going to be chair for this year, so give her a round of applause too. Ms. Lynn Wheeler.
Well, first of all, welcome everyone, and again, thanks for plowing through the snow to get here. This is a great crowd. The first thing I have to do is the cell phone announcement. So, hey, Mike, here's a good idea. Bob was telling me that the Firemen's Association has a $5 fine for anybody who doesn't turn their cell phone off that rings.
And then we could not even tell people to turn it off.
That's what I said to him. Anyway, thank you. And I'd also like is the Community Media Center here? I don't know. Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for all your work to tell the story of what's going on in our community, and we're very pleased to be able to have this air through the Community Media Center. So thanks a million. Appreciate it. The Carroll County, I'm delighted to be able to work with Mike. He's worked very, very hard. And this was a especially difficult year because Peggy was sick, but we're glad that she will be coming back in full force. Today is her first day back, so that's great. And Mike, thank you for your very, very hard work. As we end this year or begin the next year, we're up to nearly 600 business members, which is very exciting. We have a strong business relationship here. And another extremely important relationship for the Chamber is the relationship with the state delegation. The Chamber works very, very hard to have good communication with the delegation, and they do the same. This year, the Maryland General Assembly meets from January 10th to April 9th to act on more than 2,500 bills, including the state budget. The Legislative Committee of the Chamber has a long tradition of reviewing all of the proposed legislation and taking a pro-business stand by writing letters to the delegation and to the chairs of the various Senate and House committees in Annapolis. They review our letters, and your voice is heard. Last year, almost 125 letters advocating for business interests in Carroll County were sent. So thank you to the hard-working Legislative Committee, and will the members please stand? If you would like to participate in this very active committee, please see Mike. Meetings begin weekly starting January 22nd. That's Mondays, and they run through March. And now I'd like to recognize elected and appointed officials with us here today. As I call your name, please stand. Of course, starting here, Delegate Susan Krebs, Delegate Haven Shoemaker, Delegate April Rose, President of the Board of Commissioners, Dennis Frazier, and Commissioner Richard Rothschild, Sheriff Jim DeWeese, members of the Board of Education, President Bob Lord, and Virginia Harrison. New Windsor Mayor Neil Roop. Neil, there he is. Westminster City Council Member Ben Yingling, and President of the Community College, Dr. James Ball. Would the past chairs of the Chamber's board stand when I call your name and be recognized? Mike Fox from Lehigh Cement. Dave Bollinger, Barnes Bollinger Insurance Services. Ellen Finnerty Myers, Carroll Hospital. I don't know if Ellen was able to get here today. Steve Aquino, thank you, Steve. Aquino Financial. And immediate past chair, Ben Yingling. Oh, and Wayne is here too. Wayne, thank you so much. Wayne Barnes. Thank you. If you're currently on the board of directors, please stand and be recognized. That includes Wayne. Now, before we hear from our sponsors, I would like to invite a very special member of our community up, and that is Headmaster of Springdale Prep, Johnny Graham. And Johnny, thank you for hosting us here today.
Thank you, Lynn. Welcome guests. What I can tell you is I told Mike last January, it was actually January 5th last year, I said once we purchase the property and Springdale is up and running, we will host this in perpetuity. So first Thursday in January every year, you don't have to ask, you don't have to see it on Chamber's Facebook page, sleet, snow, otherwise we'll be here. So I hope the breakfast has been good this morning. Again, welcome guests. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Chef Dave Lusher, his staff, and all of my administrative team. Art Seibel is here, Neil Roop is here. These folks moved heaven and earth yesterday to make sure that everything is impeccably set. I think you can see that when you saw that when you arrived. You have some parting gifts on your table. Please take those. Stick-it notepads, pens, keychains. The kids call it swag. Take that with you and enjoy. My last comment is the thing I've noticed in my 15 months of residency in Carroll County is that the business community here unequivocally stands together. When one of us hosts an event, I've noticed everybody in Carroll County attends that event. And so Neil, Art, and I are going to be visiting your businesses in 2018 to tell you a little bit more about our corporate classroom sponsor program. We have 22 employees right now, so I know as entrepreneurs and business owners, you can appreciate that. And there's a unique way you can help us promote the spirit of entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, and leadership among our students. So time, talent, even some treasure is welcome. We're going to talk to you about our internship program, as well as some ways with a modest financial investment we can help grow together and cultivate a great lifestyle and produce some more entrepreneurs in Carroll County. So innovation and entrepreneurship is a big part of our curriculum, and we will be out in front of you this year talking about some good ways we might be able to partner together. Again, Mike, Lynn, welcome, and we're happy to host you today.
Thank you, John. And thanks to your staff. All right, and now we will hear from our sponsors. First, BGE is our first sponsor here, and we have Megan Egan who is with the External Affairs. She's the External Affairs Manager. Right, Megan? Is that correct? That's correct. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. As it's been said, BG&E has been a longtime supporter of the Chamber, and on behalf of BG&E, I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting on today's event. Also, thank you to the delegation for their willingness to attend and engage us with important dialogue this morning. Also, thank you for all that you do to make Carroll County great to live and to work in. Founded more than 200 years ago, BG&E has built a reputation for not only keeping the lights on and the gas flowing, but also for being a community partner. I'd like to quickly highlight 2 recent examples how BGE has delivered critical support here in Carroll County. On Giving Tuesday, BGE awarded 55 recipients of its inaugural Bright Ideas Teachers Grants Program, created to support kindergarten through 12th grade teachers in securing valuable teaching and learning tools. Amongst those recipients included teachers from Man Valley, Manchester Elementary, Runnymede, Tawnytown, and Westminster Elementary Schools, along with Carroll County Outdoor School. Also, Christmas came early last month when BG&E was able to donate over $50,000 worth of fire protection gear to the Manchester and Limeboro volunteer fire departments. Public safety and emergency response organizations are the foundation of our communities, and it was our way of thanking them. With that being said, currently our annual emergency response and safety grants program is open until the 15th of this month. I encourage you to spread the word to any 501c3 organizations that respond to the community's needs during emergency preparedness and response to apply for a grant. Thank you, and I wish everybody a happy and healthy 2018.
Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you very much, Megan. Our other sponsor today is Comcast. Is there anyone here from Comcast? All right, then on their behalf, thanks Comcast for being in our community and for supporting this event. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce the extremely hardworking and dedicated chair of the Legislative Committee, Bill Gavin. Bill has been on the Legislative Committee for over 40 years, and he has been the president or chair for 35 years. So, Bill, we all owe you a huge round of thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. We're getting ready for another legislative session. As I recall, Ben Franklin said, "No man's life or property are safe while the legislature is in session." I think that applies to Maryland, too, but I was only 3 when he said that. So I'd like to ask the legislators here, we can start with Delegate Krebs, to give a short synopsis of the upcoming legislative session and what they plan to do. You can sit there if you like and pass the microphone. Okay.
Thank you. And since there's only 3 of us here today, hopefully we'll each give our short little synopsis and then think of some questions, and we'd be happy to answer questions. And I give my the regrets for the rest of our delegation. We have an 11-member delegation, but many of them represent other counties. And Senator Reedy got called out at the last minute for a work demand, so he gives his regrets. I will tell you, this is one of our favorite. It's one of my favorite things to do before we go to Annapolis, because I come here in front of all of these hardworking people that are sane, and I mean that because it really, when you leave Carroll County and you all, I think we think very similarly about personal responsibility, hard work, small business. It's not like that when we get to Annapolis, and you'll read and hear about some of these things, and you sit there and go, how can it be like that? So the send-off today of us going back down there next Tuesday with you all really is appropriate. And then tonight we meet with the farmers, and that just puts the icing on the cake. So it really gives us a good frame of mind to go down there in. So we realize that we're not an island, and really we are supported by our constituents and the business community. I think we're very lucky. We have a very pro-business delegation, and we support your issues. And the thing that you can do to help us is give us some of the ammunition, some of the stories, some of the anecdotes regarding things that come in front of us, like paid sick leave. As you know, some of these issues we've talked about year after year after year, and paid sick leave is one of them. And we've talked about it, and it got passed last year, and the governor vetoed the bill. And I think we all agree that businesses know best how to treat their employees, and one size fits all is not the best way to do business with the government telling you how to run it. Unfortunately, the first order of business we see going down there is going to be the override of the governor's veto on paid sick leave. Now, during the interim, the governor has attempted to come up with another more palatable bill. I mean, I don't like any bill. I think businesses know what they know best is how to treat their employees, and if they don't, maybe they'll be out of business if they don't treat their employees well. But again, it's an issue that polls very well, and the Democrats down there seem to love just doing what polls well versus what really works economically well and what's going to attract businesses to Maryland. So I see that as one of the first orders of political business is to override the governor's veto on this. We'll see, but I think the icing is on the cake for that. Being that it's an election year, unfortunately, it's not going to be as pleasant as we've had 3 really productive years, I believe, since Governor Hogan has been there. Been very proud to be on his team. He really has changed the conversation in Annapolis. You might not see the bills necessarily coming through, but just the way that the departments are operating. If you see at the bottom of any website or anybody's email, it says, "How are we doing? Please let us know." Customer service. You never saw that before in government. I mean, if you have a problem, I mean, they want to serve you as a customer, and that's just a mindset of things that are different. And I'll give you an example. MVA, and I don't know if any of you have gone to get your license renewed lately. I forget what the original wait time was. It was like 45 minutes. We all dread going there. The average wait time at MVA now is 7 minutes. That's a big deal for people, and you might not notice it because you say, oh, this was a good experience, but that's an average. That's a big change in just a mentality at the MVA, which we all dread to go to. And I could list those things over and over again. So those are the kinds of things Governor Hogan has been doing internally, which is tremendous, and we want him to come back and do it for 4 more years because we have a long way to go. So this is an election year. It's not going to be a fun year. They're going to be banging on our governor, trying to connect him to the unpopular in Maryland president. And the governor has, tried to stick to the issues and not get about personalities. Why would you beat on the president when you go and ask them for things for your state? So I think the governor's taken a good approach to that. So, but you're going to find that constantly. Why doesn't he beat on Trump more? And it's unfortunate. So being that it's an election year, it's going to be an interesting session. I don't think we're going to have. Our blood pressure is going to be up, but we're going to keep standing on principle and on policy, and focusing on policy and discussing policy, discussing pros and cons of an issue versus personalities. And in politics, unfortunately, egos get involved at all levels, and it doesn't become about the issue anymore. It becomes about the people. And we've got to change that conversation. And even within you all, and people that you talk to in your offices and things come up, try to focus on the policy and not, I hate this person, I don't like this person. Focus on the issues, and maybe we can get something accomplished. The biggest issue that I think we got coming up ahead of us that was sort of unexpected was the tax bill. The federal tax bill passed. I think it's when people really figure out how it's going to affect them, you're going to see it's positive for Maryland. We look in the next 10 years that it's about what did they say, how many billions of dollars? I wrote it down somewhere. I think it's a $30 billion worth of tax relief over the next 10 years will come to Maryland. Now, there are going to be winners and losers, and we haven't put the pen to the paper yet to figure who that is. And being an accountant myself, I haven't even done it for us, but there's always, when you make changes, going to be winners and losers. But overall, people are going to pay less. The economy, I believe we will have more jobs because of it. But in Maryland, because we are coupled with federal law, if we don't change Maryland tax law, you're going to have a big tax increase on your state income taxes. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but we have got to change state tax law because right now you can't itemize on your Maryland taxes like many of us do if you don't itemize on your federal taxes. But now that they raised the standard deduction, many people aren't going to be itemizing on their federal taxes, so that there's no nexus that you can now do it on your state. So we've got to fix it. Governor Hogan and the comptroller are trying to run some of the numbers because it's something that is not real simple. It might sound simple, but it's not. So the comptroller came out yesterday, and they're going to issue a report in the next couple of weeks to say, okay, here are the different possibilities. But the bottom line is Maryland has got to do something with their own tax law because we are coupled with federal law. Federal law is now changed, and we've got to change Maryland law so that there's not a unnatural increase in Maryland taxes because you no longer can do the itemized deductions on the federal. So it's not the federal's fault. It's not anyone's fault. We just need to fix it. So unfortunately, I think that the other side, the people that want to spend more money in government, are going to try to not make any changes because they'd love that extra revenue coming in. And it's lots of extra revenue. I don't know the number. I don't think anyone does, but it will be hefty. And it will affect a lot of people in here. If you're anywhere if you're an itemized deduction person, and many people don't know how it affects them because they get their tax accountant to do it, and you really don't know. But go look at your tax return. And if you itemize deductions and you're anything over the $24,000 or $23,000, if you're under the $23,000 and you're over what the Maryland deduction is of $6,400, you're going to be hit by this. You're going to have a state tax increase. So It needs to be fixed. There's going to be a lot of controversy over it because the Democrats are going to want to keep that money. And part of it is we have this big push for education funding, which has been looked at for the last 2 years. It's called the Kirwan Commission. And they have not come out with their recommendations yet, but it's a very large number, and it would be a very natural way of easily taking people's money and blaming it on the federal government. So we cannot let that conversation be derailed. We need to focus on the fact that we need to fix it. Another issue that's just come up in the last couple of days or a couple of weeks, is the fact that now all of a sudden the other side, and I don't want to use the other party, but all of a sudden they want to use slots money for education. If you remember when the slots and the gaming went into place, we all complained because they said they were setting up an education trust fund. And they really sort of pulled one over on people because that money, not an extra new dollar, went to education. And we kept saying that. There's no new dollars going to education. They basically supplanted money that had to go there formula-related. So when they did all that slots and gaming and all, it said it's for education, but really it was not dedicated to new money for education. And that was, when did we pass slots? 7, 8 years ago? Or gaming? So all that gaming money really just went to expanding state general budget. So now all of a sudden they want to put it dedicated to education. Well, who could be against that? That's what everyone thought it was to begin with, and it wasn't. So they now want to dedicate that, which would leave a big hole in the general fund budget, which would force other revenues to need to come in. So keep in mind that feel-good policy that we all fought for at the very beginning. If you're going to have this, let's really dedicate it. It was never dedicated specifically to education. So there are the couple of issues that budget-related that are sort of new, we weren't expecting, but we're going to have the sick leave thing is going to come up right away. Any of you who have anecdotal stories about your business and how sick leave would affect it, keep in mind, even if you give sick leave to your employees, you now have to do it this way. And like my husband's bank, he says, oh, we already do sick leave, we don't have to worry about it. No, we'll read the rules because your sick leave may not comply with now these new rules. So even if you already give it, beware because you might not be doing it the way that is compliant. And there's very heavy penalties for not complying with the new sick leave bill. Minimum wage is going to come back up again. That polls very well, again, $15 an hour. Sounds good. We're already moving up to $10.10 an hour, I guess July the 1st. I think that's right. I'm looking at Mike because he knows all the, now that you're retired, maybe you don't know all these things. But so those are a couple other things that will be coming back again. Again, they're populist ideas. People think, why not be paid $15 an hour? But how does that affect your business? So there are a few of the things that are coming up. And please keep the lines of communication open. How something affects your business, let us know because then it helps us tell the story about these policies when we get to Annapolis. And we all have our phone numbers listed, cell phone numbers. Just call us up and let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to ask Delegate Shoemaker to come up, make his comments, or he could stay right there and use the mic. Okay.
I sit enough as it is, so I'll stand up. The fact that this room is so full is proof positive, I think, that, Carroll Countyans are pretty hale and hearty, You braved the blizzard, as Mike said, so, yeah, we appreciate that, and we always appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to the Chamber of Commerce. Now, Delegate Krebs alluded to the fact that, we would certainly appreciate you all keeping us in the loop on legislation that pops up on your radar screens because, some folks down in Annapolis think that they're experts on everything. I don't think we're ones to say that. I'm not an expert, and I don't play one on TV. So make sure that you reach out to us and keep us in the loop. Because with 2,000 plus bills or whatever it is, there's no way any individual legislator can be an expert on everything. Before I talk a little bit about what we can expect this session. I do think it's worth underscoring the successes that we had in the last session. And objective folks who've been around for a heck of a lot longer than I have said that, we had the most effective legislative session for Carroll County specifically of any session in many, many, many years. We were able to secure bond money for the Boys and Girls Club, for instance, which is undergoing their expansion plans, and that's a very, very great endeavor, and all of us are proud of that. We were able to get some money for Union Mills Homestead and the Public Safety Training Center in Westminster, which we were able to get built while I was county commissioner, but it's already in need of expansion. That's a very important facility for all of us. And in addition to that, with regard to education funding, we were able to bring back an extra $1.5 million or 1.6, whatever it is, in hold harmless funding for our public education system. And I think it bears emphasis that Carroll County has gotten more hold harmless funding with this governor of any county in the state, and second only statewide to Baltimore City. So I think that that speaks volumes about the governor's commitment to Carroll County. Now, with regard to my committee assignment, Delegate Krebs alluded to the fact that we're not going to be looking at any report from the Kerwin Commission, apparently, this year. Probably see that next year. We were anticipating seeing that this year, and that would have come through my committee that I serve on with Delegate Rose, and we're on the Education Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee. So unless I get moved, which there's a rumor going around that I may get moved. But in any event, we're not going to see that. But I can tell you that I believe Delegate Krebs is right. I've not been down there during an election year before, but I think I used this phrase last year. I think that there will probably be a lot of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. It'll be biblical. As the folks from the majority side, try to put the governor in as negative a light as they possibly can. So we're going to have to gird ourselves for that particular prospect, and we're going to have to defend the governor the best we can with the resources that we have available. Over the last session, the House Republican caucus made me the parliamentarian for whatever reason. I guess I missed a meeting. But what I guess that means is that we'll have to work within the confines of the rules of the House to advance the governor's agenda the best way we can. And there's mechanisms in the House rules that will allow us to do some of that. So I anticipate that there will be a lot of grandstanding and pontificating. So what else is new, you may ask? But anyway, I think that this year in particular, we're going to see a lot of that. So on the local front, I've been tasked with the responsibility, I guess I missed a meeting again, with being the chair of the Carroll House delegation. So, we'll have to do the best we can to get Carroll County specific legislation through the House of Delegates. Senator Reedy chairs it over on the Senate side, so we'll have to work collaboratively to make sure that Carroll County specific legislation that was the subject of a hearing that we did a couple weeks ago, gets through the Maryland General Assembly. Once we vote on that legislation, vote to advance it when we can reconvene in Annapolis over the next couple weeks. So basically, to sum up, we do go back in on the 10th. I think we have to be down there for caucus meetings on the 9th, right? Yeah, caucus meetings on the 9th. So the fun and games starts on the 10th at high noon. Make sure that you all hold on to your wallets. So thank you all very much. God bless.
And last but not least, we'll hear from Delegate April Rose. Lesson for you, don't miss a meeting.
Yes, you learn that very quickly down there. You get nominated for lots of things, so you try to show up to everything. Happy New Year. It's great to be here. As my colleagues have alluded to, I was thinking driving over here, it's great to be in a room full of sane, rational, business-minded people, because a week from now, it's not going to be the case. It's hard to believe it's already time to head back down. I do serve on Ways and Means with Delegate Shoemaker. Hopefully he will remain there, but yes, there's the rumors going around that he might get moved, and when the speaker decides what he wants to do, that's where you go. So we'll see what happens with that. I do serve on the Education Subcommittee and also the Gaming Subcommittee there. Education, it's a great committee to serve on. You would think that would be a little bit less partisan, but it certainly does rear its ugly head down there. Just to kind of talk about a couple specific bills, workforce development and training our kids for great futures is really a passion of mine. I had a bill last year that would have allowed 2 years of computer programming language to satisfy the 2-year language requirement for graduation, so that students who maybe aren't as interested in learning a foreign language would be able to really gain some great skills and possibly, move on into that field. I thought it was going to be a very simple bill, but it turned out not to be. One of the biggest frustrations to me is just the bureaucracy of the state education board of resisting anything. To me, my perception is anything new, different, innovative, and that challenges the status quo. So they really kind of fought me on that. We have a great, actually, committee chairman, Ann Kaiser, who allowed me to, instead of killing the bill, allowed me to have an interim study. We had a great summer study. It was bipartisan, and I think we have a lot of buy-in to the concept and the idea, maybe not necessarily that bill, although I am planning to put it back in, but maybe with some other avenues. I was really excited to hear from our education folks. They did start to have computer science classes in all of our high schools this year, and next year it will be in the middle schools as well. So I think we are definitely moving in the right direction. I think that's just a great path for success. I know that here at Springdale, I know you have a lot of focus on that, and I'm excited to get over here. I want to see your robotics club and the Girls in Code club. The governor actually also has a great initiative this year to expand computer science throughout K through 12 education, and he's going to have a Governor's Cup contest for Girls in Code, which I think is fantastic because we need to get more girls in the STEM fields, and I think that's a great way to do it. So I'm excited to kind of work on that in the education subcommittee this year in our committee. Workforce development again. Secretary Kelly Schultz is constantly rolling out new and innovative things. They are really giving a lot of great access to internships. As you mentioned, this business-minded way of running all of these agencies is throughout all of our state government. So I would encourage you, for your businesses, if you need interns, to avail yourself to that website. I know she's constantly updating it, and I think there's just a lot of great information and a lot of resources there for the business community, which I think is fantastic. Back to the sick leave, and I encourage you as well to please stay in contact with us. I know the first time we had the sick leave bill brought out, I had emails from this group, from my HR people, the SHRM people, giving us some great data that we can then stand up on the floor. And at that time, and I think they've done some updated ones, hopefully I'll get some new information. At that time, more than 80% of the business community was already offering some level of PTO. And they do what they can afford. Businesses, you do what you can afford. I bet every business in here has some level of sick or PTO. And it's nice to have the flexibility. I will certainly, I just fundamentally do believe that government should not be in the business of dictating benefit packages between private employers and their employees. So even the compromise bill, I appreciate what Governor Hogan's trying to do, but it's just not the proper role of government. So we'll say that on there. And then on the federal tax bill, a lot of great information and a lot of things we'll have to do at the state level, but I absolutely believe that it's going to be very good for the business community. On my last day at our headquarters for the company that I work for, our CFO gave a presentation, and they've done a kind of a quick analysis, and it looks like initially it's going to save the company that I work for about 20% in business taxes. That's huge. Anytime we can help our business community to keep more capital in their pocket, that's going to benefit hiring, growth, and to use the words trickle down, it is going to trickle down, and it's going to be better for everyone. So I'm excited to see what happens with that, and hopefully we can get some fixes to make sure on the state level we don't have any negative consequences. And, just talking about, how it is going to be down there, similar to Delegate Shoemaker, I've not been there in an election year. I think it is going to be very interesting. Some people have said you're not going to see as many controversial things because so many people are running for other offices. A lot of our colleagues in the House are running for either Senate or County Council or other offices. So I just don't know what we'll see as far as the level of discourse and how that's going to affect things. But I do think, and I've been telling, friends and family, I do feel like this is going to be the Get Hogan session. And we're going to, as my colleagues mentioned, we're going to keep defending him. I think that one thing to think about, and not to be completely political, but it's an election year, getting Governor Hogan back in for a second term is really important in trying to move forward to a two-party system where you don't have one party dominating everything down in Annapolis, because it's just not had a good effect on the business community. And I think the other thing to think about, and I spoke about Secretary Schultz, it goes beyond even just the cabinet secretaries, because as they are filling positions within all of these agencies, they are bringing in, down to the very administrative level, business-minded people who get it, who understand, who are coming from the business world, not the political world. And that really makes a big difference. When you have someone in an agency who understands when you bring them an issue, or is there to listen when you're having a problem, when they understand what it is to write that paycheck and to run a business, they just think in a completely different way. And so we need to keep doing that. We need to keep building that. There's still a lot of hiring going on. As you all know, it takes time to recruit and hire the right people for those positions. And so that's continuing to happen. And I think that's where you don't really see that in the headlines. It's not really something that you hear about a lot, but it's just huge. And that's something that I think we need to keep building on. And I'll just wrap it up and just say I love serving with this team. I think we're a great team. It's great because we work together when we're down there. We kind of tag team, and you're going to talk to this person, I'm going to talk to this person, I'm going to talk to that person. When we were working on a lot of our bond bills and funding, it got to the point where the appropriations people would see one of us coming down the hall and they would be like, I know, Carroll County. But that's because we were all on message. We all had the same, we're coming from the same playbook, and I think that really is great. Our entire delegation is wonderful, but our local team, we just work really well together. We talk a lot, we strategize, we get ready. And like you said, we're going to get ready. We're going to build up to go down there this year, and we're going to fight for you as much as we can. Yet, like Delegate Krebs said, you have our phone numbers. Mike's got all of our cell phone numbers. Text us, call us, Facebook message us, however you want to get information to us, we will take it. And again, it's great to be here. Thank you for having us, and I hope we have a great 2018.
All right, folks, we have time for a couple of questions. Although the delegates have hit on two major issues, the sick leave, which will be, the veto will be overridden shortly, I guess, maybe in a week or two, and the tax bill, which is going to have terrific ramifications on Maryland taxes. It could be a really serious problem. So anyway, who has a question for the delegates? Okay.
Just really a comment about the Trump tax plan to convey back to our delegation. One of the things that's being missed, as you discuss this, is you hear people say, well, there's a $24,000 standard exemption. But one of the issues you have to remember is standard deduction, $8,000 in personal exemptions to be eliminated. So it's really only a net $4,000 increase. I've talked to several constituents who are very concerned it's going to eliminate quite a few deductions for them. Which remains to be seen is how that's going to net out for slightly lower brackets. And I myself have tried to do a little spreadsheet and not been able to draw any conclusions about my own taxes yet. So just be aware of that. Are you guys aware of that? Yes.
Yes, I had some notes on that subject. There won't be any more exemptions on the federal return. But if you don't take exemptions on your federal return, you can't take them on the state return. And if you don't itemize on the federal return, you can't itemize on the state return. And a lot of people won't be able to itemize because the standard deduction is going to be doubled. And the standard deduction on the Maryland return is still pretty low. So that could have big ramifications, but it'd be a windfall for the legislature, I suppose. Who has another question? Back here, Dana?
We've got a microphone. We've got a microphone for you.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Go it this way. You had mentioned about the paid sick leave bill, and as I understood it, Governor Hogan was going to put in yet another compromise bill, and I've not seen that drop yet. Do you have a sense of when that might happen and what it might entail?
It should be on.
Oh, sorry. I got to bring that level up.
He's going to turn it on. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear it now? Okay. First of all, Governor Hogan put in a compromise bill last year, and I believe it will be similar. I'm not sure what the committee came up with this year, but unfortunately, I don't know that they're going to even take the bill up. They're just going to override the veto. I don't know. We'll find out when we get down there next week. I'm hopeful that they will take another look at it now that they've had time over the interim to talk to the business world and really find out what the issues are. I think they just want to be able to say they have a sick leave bill. I don't really know if they care about the details that are in it. Even some unions are against this bill because it basically undermines their collective bargaining and what they're already doing. So I think they're finding the more people that really look at the bill and see how it affects them, as I said earlier, they realize, hey, I already offer sick leave, but this is different. This is going to even impact me more. And the penalties in it are huge. I mean, per daily penalties if you do not comply properly. So I don't know what their strategy is going to be. Speaker Bush and Senate President Miller don't confer with us. That might be surprising. But so I really don't. I read in the paper what they're going to do, just like you do. So I don't know if they're going to give the governor the opportunity to bring up this separate bill or not. We'll find out next week.
And I did see some press accounts that some folks from the majority party have expressed some misgivings now all of a sudden about the paid sick leave bill that, you know, whipped through the General Assembly last year. So I don't know how much those concerns will resonate, what kind of legs they have, or any of that, but I guess that remains to be seen.
And one other dilemma that we have, I think Delegate Rose alluded to the fact, I don't think the government should have any sick leave bill. So the question for me is, do I vote for any sick leave bill at all? Because once you start, it just keeps getting worse. Or do you vote for the compromise, which is better than what they have the votes to pass? I mean, I'm inclined, I don't like even having a sick leave bill, paid sick leave bill. But we'll have to decide when we see the bill.
Yeah, one thing that that happened over the summer, the governor and Secretary Schultz, again, they held sessions. They brought the business community in to get buy-in, weigh-in, and have an actual discussion about, you know, how this would affect the business community. They offered it to everyone. They offered it bipartisan, both sides to come. I don't know if anyone from the Democrat side came, but they did do that, and that was how they built this compromised bill. But after they had the press conference, Delegate Klippinger, who is the sponsor of the original sick pay bill, basically said, I don't care, we're not doing that, he wants his bill. So I think the governor's compromise and the weigh-in from the business community means nothing, and I think they're just going to override the veto, and that's going to be the end of that, to be honest with you.
Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, let me just mention one thing I forgot. I'll ask, before I forget, just this week, and this press release came out from the governor's office, and it came out on the 29th, and I just read it yesterday. I think it was very bad timing to bring something this important up right during the holiday. But the governor, they finally issued their Regulatory Reform Commission report, and if you read the press release, they have literally overturned 650-some regulations as a result of people in the community bringing up ideas and saying, why do we do this, why do we do that? And they're going to continue to be working on regulatory reform. So in your industry, if you have regulations, you say this doesn't make sense, you know, they're looking for you to let them know what they are. And we've mentioned this even with the school system, with anything that you do. If it doesn't make sense, you know, get in touch with us, get in touch with the governor's office, and they have literally rolled back. They're not going to dream it up themselves and just go down the list. They need input back from the community on things that don't make sense, and they have done a great job over the last 2 years.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes?
Something I don't think that you can do anything about is the $10,000 limit for state and local income tax payments. And I understand also the tax prep is not tax deductible now either. So I prepaid my tax prep in December, but we could not prepay our local real estate taxes, at least not in this county. Some counties allowed it. So there's going to be many of us that are going to have a lot of money that we pay here locally, being in a high tax state, that is not going to be deductible beyond $10,000. Like I said, and there's nothing you can do about it. I only mentioned it because I wanted to bring this part up on the tax bill, and nobody else wanted to ask the question. So.
No, and listen, I agree with you on that. In Maryland, because of the way we tax in the high tax states, as an accountant, and I majored in tax for my master's, so I knew some about tax, but it really is the right way of doing business for the country, of what they're doing, limiting, not picking winners and losers in certain kinds of these little tax breaks which have gotten out of control. However, everybody cares, how does it affect me? How does it affect our state? How does it affect our county? I think you're going to see states that are in these high property tax, high income tax states change how they do taxes. Because if you look at Florida, I was just in Nashville, Tennessee, they have no income tax. You're going to see there be more broad-based type of taxes, like they have higher sales tax and other types of taxes. So I think you're going to see states that are in these high tax areas, or the high tax states, reevaluate how they collect revenues and do it more broad-based versus high income tax, high property tax. But in defense of the states that don't pay income tax, high income tax, or no income tax, they really were subsidizing the high tax states. So philosophically, it's the right tax way, it is the right way to do it, and there's going to be winners and losers in any tax bill, and our state's going to have to start looking at how we raise revenue and maybe have it more broad-based. But you're right, the $10,000 we have absolutely no control over. I don't even think our congressman had a lot of control over it. They had to make it balance out with some other things. Hopefully those of you in this room who are business people are going to make out with, this really was a corporate tax, how do we get the economy rolling tax bill. Back when Reagan put the tax bill in, it was more about individual tax rates. This has helped individuals as well, but this really is more about getting the economy rolling and being competitive around the world, because as you know, we weren't competitive. So that was the focus of this tax bill.
Okay, another question? Yes, sir.
This question is for Delegate Rose. So Springdale Prep is a State of Maryland LLC. Governor Hogan has some wonderful tech education initiatives for public schools. So my question naturally is, folks assume that a business that is also a school doesn't need the funding for such support. How do we connect to the wonderful momentum that Governor Hogan has for tech education and computer science initiatives going statewide?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I will absolutely look into it for you. I know that there was talk of some grant funding, so I don't know if that's limited to, county grants or if it is open to the business community, but I will absolutely get you that answer. Great question.
And I know this has been a 10-year issue for the municipalities and counties, but the highway user revenue. I know this is a broken record, but do you see any movement with this being an election year to change it back to the original formula?
I think there is a plan to ramp back to the original formula that's been agreed to, so I think in the out years you're going to see it. I don't know that we've pushed, it's a phase in back to the original numbers, so I can't speak to that. We've always pushed for that, especially the rural areas. But I will tell you, look around this state at the new roads that are being paved and being improved, and look at the Beltway announcement. None of those things would have happened under the last administration because the money in the last administration for 8 years was being put into mass transportation. And those couple of projects, the Red Line, the billions of dollars of cost for the Red Line and the cost for the Purple Line, which now has been renegotiated, and they have a public-private partnership with the Purple Line. Those monies that were coming from the Transportation Trust Fund, which were your road tax dollars, are now going to roads. So I think we're all benefiting. We don't just ride on the county and the town roads, but we're all benefiting from the increase of money going into our road system all over the state of Maryland. So it's visible to me, and it's going to be more visible. It's continuing to be visible. Every bridge is going to be replaced in the next couple of years, every deficient bridge. We're going to have the most, 100% of our bridges, we're going to be best in the country with having our bridges being in good shape. So those are the kinds of things that have been rededicated the money, and I know the towns and counties it's important to. It's important to us as well, but at least we know in the out years it's going to be fully, the highway user funds will come back. We'll keep pushing for doing it in an accelerated fashion.
And I think it is refreshing to see a governor that actually invests in transportation projects that people use. Under the last governor, over half of the Transportation Trust Fund was spent on mass transit that roughly 3 or 4% of the people of the state use. So, and the rest of us, the other 95, 96% of us were, running on, riding over subpar roads and crumbling bridges and the like. So the governor has actually put an extraordinary effort in investing in roads and bridges and that sort of thing, and it's really refreshing to see.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to thank the delegation for cooperating so heartily with business and trying to make life better here in Carroll County. And I think we'll call an end to the question and answers. If anyone else has another question, perhaps you folks can stick around for a few minutes, but I'll turn it back over to Mike McMullen so we can get you out of here on time.
Thanks, Bill. How about a round of applause for our delegation? I also want to thank, in this day and age when people seem to work a job for a couple years and then go to the next job, and people don't seem to stick with things as much on a whole. I just want to thank Bill Gavin volunteering on this extremely important committee for like 40 years. I mean, that's a long time. Amazing since he's only like 42 years old. But Bill has been, he's been a force in this. And we all have strengths. We all have areas that we like and areas that we don't like. Legislation is not something I gravitate to. It's not like, oh, gee willikers, I love this kind of stuff. So to have a committee chaired by someone like Bill, who's fabulous at it, and everybody else who's in our group, it's just outstanding. And they do a lot of work for you and every business in Carroll, whether they're a member of ours or not. So a big round of applause for Bill, please. And once again, our sponsors, Comcast and BGE, and our friends at CMC for filming this. These guys are great. They do a lot of our events, and we really do appreciate the partnership that we have with you. And Johnny Graham, so we're here forever now. And you guys, awesome food. The place is great. And look at the group we have here on a snow day. This is really good. So thank you for that. We have some upcoming events that you want to get plugged into. This coming Tuesday, the 9th, we have our State of the County, where our 5 commissioners come and speak. And that's a free one for anyone. It's at the Carroll Arts Center on Main Street. Tuesday, I think it starts at 7:30-ish. So you want to get there early, some coffee and stuff, and get a chance to hear from them. So that ought to be great. And we also have a PM Connection, going to be through the Westminster Volunteer Fire Department PM Connection on the 16th, Tuesday, at John Street Quarters. So we'd ask you to please come to that. That's from 4 to 6. You can find all these events on our website. Aside from events that are designed to connect people in the actual community and educational events like this, we do so many other events that a lot of folks don't even have a clue are run through your chamber. We do events like Outstanding Teacher Awards, 28 years of this. We do a Drug Awareness Expo. We had 2,500 kids come from the schools last year. We do a Public Safety Awards where we recognize police, fire, first responders. We do the Carroll Biz Challenge. This will be our 7th year where we pick 5 entrepreneurs. They get to pitch live, and one of them walks away with a big check, and it's a lot of fun. We do something called Leadership Carroll, where we're taking applications now for next year's class. We do that in partnership with Carroll Community College, and I think 26 or so years of that. And we do the Chamber's Young Professional Group Launch Carroll. A lot of these events are branded as their own, but they're driven through your chamber. So your membership, aside from getting a lot of exposure for you, helps to drive a lot of things in the local community, and I would like to thank you for that. We're going to be opening for applications for the 7th Annual Carroll Biz Challenge March 1st. You can find it on our website. And as I said, we're taking applications now for Leadership Carroll, the class that'll start in September. This class always fills up. This last year we put 42 in the class, and I had 5 on the waiting list. So if you're interested, you want to get involved. We like to do fun stuff too. We're going to Austria in September of this year. We just took a group of 46 to Tuscany. So if you have ever had a desire on your bucket list to have a beer in Munich during Oktoberfest, this is the trip for you. We have some flyers at the front table. And other than that, I think I've covered every announcement except to say that for those who have been concerned about Peggy in our office, she's been out of the office now since November 1st. She will be back this afternoon, and she's starting full-time. I told her we're going to work her 80 hours a week to get her caught up. She said no. But other than that, thank you again for coming, and our meeting's adjourned. You guys can stick around and chat. Thank you.